Okay, everybody. So today we have Victoria Emlyn, which is that's basically your handle on IG, right? Cool. Well, we just wrapped up a shoot. If you guys know me, you know I love my gel shoots. I've shot many times with Vicky, many times doing gel, but this time we switched it up a little bit, and I had kind of an inspiration concept, more of a fine art type feel, and she had her own version as too. So we went ahead and did both, and came out well. Of course, I still have to go through editing and all that, but hope you had a good time. It was a little bit different, and yeah, I mean, in fact, you said something during the shoot that we could kind of discuss, maybe, which was you noticed that since I'm being more particular with my shots, you seem to move a little quicker, and yeah, like give me your thoughts on that. Like, how was that? Because normally we do the gels and you just kind of move like we did at the end, but yeah, what was it like kind of having that more particular commentary, me coming up and adjusting things just so?
I would say it was like the goal, and you had like a specific thing in mind. Whereas like with the gels, it's very much like free flowing, and there's not really like a point to be like, hey, we're done. It's pretty much just like, oh my God, like you said, like you could go on doing this for hours.
Yeah.
Whereas like you had a specific set of poses and looks that you wanted to get. And so it's like, as soon as that was done, okay, let's move on. That's like I think you allotted like 3 to 5 shots for each pose. Like you really make sure you like honed in on all the details.
Yeah.
And then we were able to move on. Like, for some reason that just like speeds things along because it's just like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. It's funny because we move along. Well, we move along and do the gels too, but we just do so much more of those. And I also noticed a sense of comfort on your end too when we got into our old rhythm. Like you just started moving. You just started moving, and I was just like, okay, this is a vintage Everett and Vicky, like doing our thing. So that was really cool. One thing that, one of the questions I have, perhaps, and maybe some words of advice that you could give to models. One thing that you do really well, and I really noticed it when we were doing the gels, and I've noticed it, of course, all along, but now that I'm kind of approaching this from a more of an artwork and going toward competitions and looking for awards and whatnot, the little critical details are always very important, and a big part of that is the hands. And I noticed that when we were doing the gels, and again, now that my eye is more scrutinous, in the past, I don't know if this was the case. I'm sure it was, but you were just really good at moving, at making sure the hands were involved. One of the things that they critique you about when you do competitions is if one hand is behind the body or hidden or not involved, they'll take points off for that. Like they want to see the whole figure, So, is that something that you were just naturally good at, or did you work? Is that something you kind of became conscious as over time and gotten better at?
I would say I got better at it.
Yeah.
For me, it was like working with so many different photographers, and everyone is so different. Like what they're looking for, what they want, and every shoot is different. Sometimes I go to a shoot and it's very much like the photographer is directing from the moment I like step on the backdrop to the moment that we're done shooting. And then it's other times where it's like a little bit of free flowing, and like we might have a big idea or a thing or a concept. But I think like working with so many different people, and some people are very particular about like the little details, like, okay, your hair's out of place, like we need to fix this, and like that kind of stuff, to hand gestures. And I think like for me, I may not have thought about it that much. I know that like having the fingers spaced out and stuff like that, like sometimes that can look really weird and wonky. I went into modeling knowing that. But as far as like kind of like free flowing hands and just making sure they always look kind of like dainty and pretty, you don't want to have like, like T-Rex.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
There are sometimes like, it's also about the vibe and the concept, right? So like I've done some shoots where like it's supposed to be weird and crazy.
Yeah.
So my hands are like, oh.
Yeah.
Whatever, but it depends on what direction you're going. Today was very much like, even with the gels, I feel like it was very pretty, and like everything is meant to flow together. And I feel like with the gels, like we've had practice with that, but it's like flowing from fine arts into gels. It's like it carried over that same feel and that same flow.
Yeah, for sure. Graceful is the word that comes to mind. Like when you're talking about fingers, make sure they have grace. And yeah, it's funny how much you can invoke tension in your viewer by literally doing that, because they look tense.
They just,
And so if you're going for that weird, awkward, tense feel, then you may find yourself wanting to do that as a model. And then it flowed very nicely. Normally my gel shots, and this was no exception, but this was like, normally my gel shots, as you know, are very sexual, and it's all about sex appeal, glamour, basically, is what they are about. But with what we were shooting, I would call that they were less sexual and more sensual and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I showed you them out of the camera, but that is kind of the vibe that I think we captured versus before we like syrup down your body and stuff like that.
Those are great too.
Yeah, those are fun too, and
completely different.
Yeah, totally. Those are so much fun, and it's fun to be sexy like that too. But then it's like, there's beauty and just grace, and so that was a very nice transition in that. That was very cool. Let me ask you this. I'm always curious. Sometimes there's a stigma with male photographers, and there are a lot of creeps out there. I'm sure you've had your share, but let's just wipe that off the table for a second. And let's say you have a reputable, good photographer. You have a reputable, good female photographer. You got a male photographer. In your experience, what has been the difference between the two? Or is there any difference?
There is.
Yeah.
There is. And I would say, like, if we're talking energies, right? Like, I feel like there's a different energy when it comes to that. And for some reason, like, as a woman, I feel like when it's like a female photographer, there's just a woman to woman kind of energy and communication that's going on. I was actually talking about this to one of my model friends because she saw me jump from like shooting with a very great, like, respectable male photographer to a female photographer, and just saw me like open up like a blossom.
Wow, okay.
And I think that it's just because like for example, to be like vulgar, I guess, is if like I was shooting with a female photographer and she's like, all right, like she's gonna tell me like, booty, it's time to like get that ass out, and I'm like, okay, cool, like, no bad. And it's like a different thing. Where with the guy, it's like even a respectable photographer, it's like, oh, can we like shoot your backside? Like, can I see they're like trying to be respectable.
They're dancing around and then they're trying to be respectable.
And then for me, it's also just like, okay, yeah, here it is, and it's a different feeling. And I would say like with a female photographer, like there's just an understanding of certain things that like a man wouldn't understand. And I don't mean it like a double standard.
No,
it's just different.
No, it's just, that's the reality.
Yeah.
I deal with it on a boudoir level, like from my business. Female boudoir photographers have such an advantage over male boudoir photographers because there is just that connection that they have. And like we obviously there's no connection necessarily. I mean, you're the same gender. It's two females with each other, so you automatically have that connection. You know what I mean? So,
like, kind of thinking more on that, there is also like male gaze versus female gaze. I'm gonna
for sure.
I'm talking my answer about so like with the female gaze, like I would say, even if it's like sexy and sensual, there's just something different about like the way that they capture a woman compared to a traditional, and that's also another thing that I've noticed as well. And that's not good or bad; it's just different.
Sure.
And so that I would say those are my biggest critiques when it comes to like.
Do you have a preference? Sounds like you working with a female is more.
I would say not really.
No preference.
It really depends on like the shoot that I'm doing, right? So like I would say with the female photographer, I would probably feel more comfortable venturing in like unknown territory where it's like, hey, I have this idea. I don't know if I'm going to like it. I kind of want to try it. And can we take some shots? Let me look at them. Like, let's, come to a consensus here. If we don't like them, trash them. Right. Or like, if I don't like it, trash it, and vice versa. Right. Whereas with a male photographer, I don't know, like if I built a relationship with them, like professional relationship, like I might feel more comfortable to do that. But yeah, it's still going to be kind of like a little bit of hesitation.
Sure, of course.
It's a different, also like I would feel bad. I don't know if that makes me like super empathetic, but I would feel bad if we tried something and the photographer's like, I'm like, oh, this is the best shot ever. Like, I haven't been able to do this. Like, I've been wanting to do it. And then I look and I'm like, I hate this.
Oh, God.
I don't want anyone to see this, So it's like things like that as well. that I don't know if it's like woman to woman, there's like an empathy point there that maybe isn't the same with men. So
Okay, interesting. I spoke with Jasmine, and she had an interesting take too on just the differences, and then and that not one was better than the other, but they're just different.
they're very different. Yeah.
So okay, well, cool. Now let me ask you this: you've been doing this for a while. Well, you just started doing the traveling thing. Well, not just, but you've been doing it for a little while.
Since December. Yeah.
December. Okay, so this is kind of relatively recent.
Going on 7 months. So.
And it was funny. I mentioned to Victoria when she showed up. It looks like you've been doing some traveling, and the way that I was able to tell was the work, because when you guys are going through and you're getting paid, the expectation or the assumption that someone like me makes is because that person isn't necessarily at the same level. There's this whole TFP chart. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, I've seen
where it shows
where it's like
you get paid.
Yeah,
right. And so it's obvious that it's not overwhelmingly obvious, but the assumption was that, they were at a lower level than you, and that's why they're paying you to work with you so they could get better.
And it also depends. I mean, there's so many different scenarios.
That's true.
There's like that, or it's like there's amateurs and then they want to work with professional models. I mean, they're not having to is my exposure right? Is the lighting right? Is this flash going up? And then you're also having to, teach this model how to model, right? Sure. And it's like, oh, that pose is stiff. Oh, that looks weird. Oh, if you turn your body this way, then I'm seeing this. And with a professional model, it's basically just like we're standing there and it's like, okay, time to go. And then
correct. Yeah. I've dealt with that as well. Like new models that I thought were beautiful but don't know how to pose like at all. But that's always an interesting dynamic. And I do a lot of TFP because I don't want to work with anyone who isn't experienced or just doesn't have a certain look.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to be paying, so that kind of thing. So it's the same across the board in models and photographers, I think, when it comes to that. Let me ask you this. So, you've been doing this for a while. You've been doing the traveling. Interesting stories that you had.
Yeah.
But what would be your overall advice to someone who's getting into this? Someone new today, 18-year-old, 19, 20, they have never really done it before. What would be maybe your top 3 pieces of advice that you would provide?
For modeling in general, I would say safety first, always. So get references, vet photographers. A lot of respectable photographers, I will say, will agree to meet with you for coffee or something. I've had several I don't want to say coffee dates, but you know what I mean, coffee meetings.
Sure.
Where we discuss the shoot and it's like, hey, what are you comfortable with? This is what I want to do. This is what I have in mind, and laying everything out on the table so that the day of the shoot, we've already talked about everything.
Yeah.
You're not saying you can't change your mind, but it's like we're going into this with the same image, same
expectation.
Yeah, expectation. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. I would say as a beginner, do that every chance that you get. Always bring someone with you to a shoot. I feel like it's a huge red flag if someone says you can't bring anyone. I think there's a distinction between bringing a boyfriend or a partner versus bringing a friend or another model or et cetera, right? Because there are some photographers that have had really negative experiences when it comes to boyfriends and partners, either being territorial, possessive, or making the shoot weird. One photographer was like, I don't care if you bring your female friend, but no men. He was like, I got to jump the last time that.
Really? Oh, okay.
And so, okay.
That's legit, I guess.
Yeah. And so, as long as I can bring someone, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Right. So I would keep that in mind. I would really get serious about what you're comfortable with. When I first started modeling, I didn't just jump into nude photography, or not nude photography, but nude modeling.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing applied. I think the maximum that I did was probably crop top and short.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me just feeling out, do I like modeling in general? Am I comfortable with my body? Do I feel okay with this process? Am I working with good people that I want to continue building these professional relationships with? And also broadening my portfolio within that safe realm. Not saying it's not safe to do even, but I feel like that's a little bit of a heavier decision, I would say.
For sure.
Right, because there can be lasting effects for doing this. And I do it so I know it's amazing, it's fun, it's all these things, but I feel like you should really work in this realm see if you like it at all. Do as much as you can in this realm, because it's going to be just as important, even if you do cross over into nude and that kind of work. I mean, because even me, like, there's still some like fashion and beauty like editorial looks that I'm like, I've never done
Oh yeah.
in my portfolio, So it's like things like that. So always expanding.
But at this point, primarily you are glamour nude is
Yeah, I primarily get hired for that.
okay.
Whenever I get hired for fashion, I'm like, it's like I had a portrait session yesterday, and I was like, "Do you want me to do like fine arts nudes?" And he was like, "No, you're gonna be dressed the whole time." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, so it's a change of pace.
Yeah,
And it clothes.
right.
Yeah.
They're all fun, but it's interesting. So, I would say those are my top two. Let's see, another plate that I would say is
How about let me switch it up a little bit. How about your third bullet point, or maybe you can have a couple for photographers, for newer photographers. What would be your advice?
Oh, I have a lot. That's probably more there than I do with Arnold.
Things not to do.
Yeah, things not to do.
Yeah. Well, we already talked the red flag when you do. That's my thing. If you do not allow people to bring someone with them, that's definitely a red flag.
Yeah.
You should be allowing. Now, for the guy that, oops, hold on one second. Okay, sorry guys, I had to reset one of my cameras. I was saying that the guy that got jumped, it sounds legit. That's a good reason why he didn't want to bring.
Oh my God, that's Derek. Yeah.
And I would say that for that guy, as long as he's allowing someone, that he probably is okay and he has a good reason. One thing I would say for models, sorry, not to switch it from me, but I would suggest them not bringing boyfriends.
Yeah.
And if you're going to bring a male friend. Don't bring a male boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your only choice, then fair, but make sure that they don't jump the photographer. Right.
Yeah, so make sure you've had the conversations, make sure that they...
What you're going to be doing, by the way, they're going to be seeing my butt, they're going to be seeing, parking me.
Yeah.
So, as long as they're allowing someone. But to bring it back to you, though, that's my only interjection.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to you, what else would you advise for new photographers?
Okay, so definitely the escort thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a big thing for me that like I would kind of also advise new models about is like I've become really desensitized to like photographers just like kind of touching me without asking, and I think that should be a huge thing. Especially because like as a photographer you're working with new models and experienced, and a lot of the newer ones like they probably don't know that it shouldn't be a common thing. It should be like, hey, can I fix your hair? Hey, can I fix this lingerie piece or this shirt or this and that? Like just asking consent. And I think that like I actually got really desensitized to where like I did a shoot a couple months ago and this photographer was, hey, like the shirt is like kind of sitting weird. Like, do you mind if I like fix it? And I just was like, yeah. And then I'm like, my immediate reaction is like, why is he asking me? And then I was like, oh, I know, well, you shouldn't be asking. Yeah, and so it's like things like that where, don't get too desensitized to that, like on both sides. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, like that should be basic human decency.
For sure.
I would say another thing for amateur photographers is like be clear cut with your communication and also like what you're wanting from the shoot. I actually worked with a photographer in Houston and I loved that he asked for feedback at the end of our shoot. And he was like, is there anything that I could have done differently? Like, any pointers, like this and that. And one of the issues that I had during the shoot was like, he would adjust lighting in his camera. We were working with natural light, so not any like strobes or anything. But he would just get quiet. And I'm like holding a pose, like not flowing.
Sure. And
I told him, I was like, hey, when you're adjusting lighting, I know it seems weird because like, you know what you're doing, but I don't. So you just say something like, hey, give me a second. I'm working on lighting and I'm just testing so that I'm not, running through poses and I can just like kind of wait until you're ready. Just a little communication like that goes a long way. And then when it comes to concepts, like I think having a mood board, having a specific photo, like you sent me a specific photo and we didn't do that exact pose, but I knew what the vibe was.
The same vibe, correct? Yeah.
I even had one photographer that I worked with in Virginia. I liked the way that he approached just figuring out my comfort level. Because I've shot all the way up to like nude. I used to do erotic, so like it's a wide range of things that I've shot. But he still took the time to clarify and be like, what are you comfortable with? And he had like different levels. So it was like level 1 was like, implied. Level 2 was like fine arts, poses, that kind of stuff. Level 3 started getting into like erotic and and that was it. And so he was like, tell me what level you're at and I'll work with that. When he came to the shoot, he had a folder and he was like, hey, what do you think of these poses, these ideas? And I was like, cool with that one, cool with that one, cool with that one, the rest no. And then push me. And it was just that clear communication of like, I can visually see what he wants to do and we can decide on this together. And it doesn't become this like cheeky, like, oh, I'm going to like shoot up and she's not going to realize because the pose that we're doing, like, it was very much like clear cut. And he also, this is another tip. I think that you should show the model what you're getting. One, because it helps the model the posing, right? So if something's not working, then if you show her the photo and it's like, hey, this is the lighting. Oh, okay. That's what the lighting looks like. That's what we're doing here. I'll know to face this way or that way. Or to like adjust my body, whatever way it needs to go to like create harsh shadows or less shadows, whatever. But it also like will make the model more comfortable because it creates trust. So it's like, hey, I'm not shooting up your, like the pose that we did, right? And you were like shooting up my back. And you showed me what it looked like. And like that creates trust with me because I was like, oh, okay, he's not shooting like anything like raunchy. Like I can see exactly what we're getting.
For sure.
And so that's a huge recommendation.
Communication works too. If you ever have to specifically say, so did you want to shoot my crack like you did today?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't want it to, but I was like, let me just
no. There was a funny moment during the shoot for those of you that are fans of our paid platforms. At one point, I was explaining what I wanted to do. In her head, she thought I wanted to shoot a way that I don't shoot, and that she probably maybe shoot a handful of times. But she was like, "So did you want to shoot that?" I'm like, "No, your booty's gonna be that way. I'm not gonna be seeing anything." So it was a funny little moment that we laughed about. But that just goes to show you that the communication is huge. So you have to pay attention to that. And so those are great tips. In fact, I could benefit from that. One thing that I do that I advise photographers to do, and this creates a lot of trust with the people, especially newer people, is to have your business systems in place. Like have a booking system. Like whenever you and I shoot, I send you a link, you book the time and date that works for you. It's all automatic. You get those reminders, email and text notifications. Yeah, so that's very nice. The other thing is, and I haven't sent you this in a while because we've been shooting for so long and over years multiple times, but to have a preparation guide is one thing I suggest for photographers with an FAQ that outlines expectations. So if you don't have the benefit of meeting with the photographer beforehand, like your coffee visits, at least provide them a site that they can visit that shows what you're expecting, perhaps some ideas. One of the things I have is like a sexy nerd, wet t-shirt, a nerdy look, maybe your husband's shirt, bring it with you, that kind of thing. Creative outfit ideas, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's an FAQ that says, how long would the shoot last typically? And then, I answer all of that. I add some links for local makeup artists and hairstylists too, in case they want to get something done locally before the shoot. And then just some tips as far as skincare and hair and all that. So that's something that I send all the models that I shoot with. Again, like I said, it's probably been a while since I've sent that, since you've seen that, because you're on it, by the way. One of your photos is on it. Yeah, it's because there's one that says creative outfit idea number 1 and creative outfit idea number 2. And it's just an outfit that I think it was the first time we shot together. You were dating someone at the time, and you said that you stumbled upon the outfit in some weird shop on the.
I remember that.
And you were
so cool.
Yeah, it's like a translucent top and had beads and was just. I don't know where the hell. I don't even know how to Google an outfit.
It was cool.
It was just a cool outfit, and so I said, "Creative outfit idea number 1," and it's you.
Yeah,
with the classic. Classic shot. That's one of my all-time favorite shoots, and that shot was like one of my. In fact, I just put it into my queue to add it as a competition photo. I'm gonna try to be that. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Cool. Well, what about you as far as significant others? Let's talk about that for a moment. One thing that I have found tough, I don't know about you, is personal relationships with people where you have to explain this is what you do.
Yeah.
And I have dated, and it's become an issue. And they're like, "Oh, you're going to be shooting a model again? What are you going to be doing after that? How long is it?" And it's little things like that. I'm a little bit older. I'm a lot older than you are, but the maturity level of the women has risen. And so the jealousy factor isn't as present, but it is still there. It is still there every once in a while. But I was wondering what your take was. Like, has that been a struggle, like maintaining a relationship?
Well,
I already know what your current situation is, but I just want...
yeah, I'm actually in a new relationship. I'm dating a photographer, which I know there's like kind of stigma about that. But what I will say is we're friends before we like romantically ventured. And one thing I will say that I've noticed is like our communication with each other is really just green flags all the way around. Like we both are, I don't know why my voice just did that. Like you took that. So I date a lot of guys that like are not in the industry, and it's hard because like I feel like there's just a disconnect, like there's a misunderstandings, and just having to explain myself and like what I do, I just felt like I was always like performing and like hiding a part of myself, even though this is such a major part of my life, right? That I would say like in this new relationship, like the other day I like told him about a shoot that I did where I was like nude, obviously, and like I was like playing with ice and like water. I was like, yeah, they're like rolling around in this like ice and water and stuff. And he's like, oh cool, I bet those photos are awesome. Like, you know, but like someone that's not in the industry, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, like,
You know?
yeah.
And it's like I get it. Like I can have empathy and I can understand why someone that's not in this is like, what? Is that normal? You got hired to do that?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, what does that look? That sounds really sexual or like really weird. But like dating someone who's a photographer who's on the other side of the lens, like he can already like creatively see what we're trying to get, that there's not really that jealousy there. And it's like open communication. It's just like, you know, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. We've been like super supportive of each other, like any ideas that we have, like any ways that we can help each other. Like I recently I offered basically to be a chaperone. I was like, do you have any models that like, you know, would feel better having me there as like a presence? I'm a female model. Like,
Sure.
I can relate to them in a different way. I could assist, whatever, right? And so it's like things like that, like that I don't know, I just truly appreciate because I've never had that before. And then just being able to just be open and kind of like have all the cards on the table and just like, this is what I do. And do not...
Maybe I should date models.
Shit, but like there's a stigma, and I will say like it does suck, and I understand the stigma, and I will say that like I wasn't dating for a really long time. Like I completely stopped. I downloaded Hinge like a few months ago, and then I was just like, I'm not ready. I was going through so much stuff, and just like this transitional period of like traveling, and I got to this point, and me and my boyfriend laughed about this, but like I got to this point where I was like, I'm just going to be forever alone. And like, whatever, this is what it is. I'm doing everything that I want to do. I'm traveling, I'm modeling, I'm getting to be creative. And I'm doing this life goal that I never thought I'd get to do. So if that means I don't have a partner, at least I can be happy in this.
For sure.
And like, as soon as I like accepted that, like, bam, he just,
wow. Okay.
And vice versa. Like he was literally in the same spot of just like this transitional, like, okay.
Is this someone that you've worked with that like before?
I worked with him a few times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we're like going public yet. So
no. I figured you weren't, so I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was someone you just met who happened to be a photographer or
no. We did work together.
Okay.
And we were friends. Like definitely platonic. Like nothing happened. I didn't really expect anything. Like I told him I felt an attraction from the beginning, but when I met him, I had just gotten out of like a toxic situationship. And I
situationship.
Oh, there's a mess.
Okay.
And I just like I was just really traumatized from it.
Sure.
So when I met him, like I didn't like I felt an attraction, but I was like, I'm not in this space. So I kind of like shut it down. And I just was kind of like a bro. Like I feel like I just like came in every time we shot, it was just like, yo, what's up, Corey? Like just being myself. That like transitioning into a romantic relationship, I noticed that like I'm not performing and I'm still very much like romantic bro energy. You know, where like I was still myself. So
cool.
I don't know if that's advice. All I would say is that I think that it just takes someone being like open, empathetic, and honestly just curious about you as a person, even if they're not in the industry. I think someone that is just like, okay, I don't understand all these things, but like I like you and I want to know who you are as a person. And help me understand you
Yeah.
and like create that safe space where like they could come to shoots, right? Or they could assist, or they could see like what you're working on, like why you're passionate about it, whether it's like, you know, these kind of shoots or if it's like, you know, portraits or like engagement, wedding, you know, et cetera.
For sure.
But it's like bringing someone that wants to be brought into your world.
Sure.
I think that's a better one.
And support it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, that's interesting. And food for thought. Like I said, maybe I'll start dating models.
So right.
Because they probably would have less potential to be upset because they get it.
Sometimes.
But just see,
yeah.
no, and that's I know. I just two people just came into my head right now where I'm like, no, that wasn't necessarily the case. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All is fair. Love and war, as they say. All right, Vicky. Well, I think that wraps it up. We had a pretty good discussion. Holy slow, went longer than I thought.
Yeah.
A lot of good insight, so I appreciate that. And as always, it was awesome working with you.
Yeah.
And now that I didn't realize you live so close. Now that you live so close,
5 minutes away.
I know that's pretty funny. But yeah, maybe we can make it a little more frequent. Maybe a couple more times until the end of the year.
Yeah.
Do a few more things, a few more projects, ideas, inspo type shots. Yeah, cool. All right, guys. Well, we will see you later. Again, thanks to Vicky M. Lynn. Victoria M. Lane, you can find her right here at her IG. Until next time.